These are the top 5 quarterback options for the Pittsburgh Steelers that can either come in and replace Kenny Pickett, or they can come in and give them the competition that they're looking for. So hit the subscribe button if you're new. Also hit the like button. Coming in the number 5 spot is Ryan Tannehill. And the reason why Ryan Tannehill is on this list, I know a lot of people may roll their eyes and say he's washed, he's no good. The last couple years for Tennessee Titans haven't been good. But in 2022, he did have 13 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And you may say, how's that a good stat line? He didn't play all of the entire season because he hurt his ankle. The Tennessee Titans offensive line has not been good enough. But you look at the connections with the Steelers. Arthur Smith is now the brand new offensive play caller with this team. From 2019 to 2020, he was the offensive coordinator with that team. And we go back and we turn back the clock. Those are some of Ryan Tannehill's best years in the NFL. In 2019, he had 22 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions. And you may say, hey, Derrick Henry did all of the work. Okay, let's go to the next season to where he had 33 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He is a solid quarterback. He's not going to be a top 5 or top 10 option for the Steelers at that quarterback spot, but he's a cheaper veteran that you can have around, and he's been around the NFL before, and he's had some success in the NFL. The reason why he looked so bad the last couple years with the Tennessee Titans, it can be because he is washed. He's not the same quarterback as before. I'm not going to argue against that, but it was behind one of the worst offensive lines, and he did not have any true wide receiving help. They traded away A.J. Brown, and all they really had was just a run game, and the offensive play calling was terrible. And they were leading their division last season before all the injuries came and bit this team in the back. This season right here, they didn't look good, and Ryan Tannehill didn't look good either. The offense was very dicey, and without the run game, he did not look good. But a lot of that is because of the lack of separation from the wide receivers and the lack of protection up front. You put him into a situation with Arthur Smith, who knows his game very well, who can go out there and coach up his strengths and try to hide his weaknesses as well. We're talking about a Steelers team that can run the football with Najee Harris. They can run the football with Jalen Warren. That's one thing that this team can do. The offensive line is not as bad as some people think. The offensive line played better down the stretch. And you also have Ryan Tannehill, who can get rid of the football very quickly. And you have weapons like George Pickens. And you also have Deontay Johnson at Pat Freiermuth as well. And one thing that Ryan Tannehill has done a good job of in the past is use the tight ends. Pat Freiermuth has not had that much success since Big Ben retired. His best season was his rookie season with Big Ben. Since then, he's been playing with a lot of quarterbacks that haven't been able to use him as much. And you can say it was terrible game planning by Matt Canada. But at the end of the day, Kenny Pickett has 13 passing touchdowns to 13 interceptions in 25 games. A lot of that is due to lack of quarterback play and the consistency of that quarterback play for guys like Pat Freiermuth. Numbers to be down. The same with Deontay Johnson and George Pickens as well. So coming in that number 5 slot would be Ryan Tannehill. Number 4 may shock a lot of people, and it may make some people say, what are you talking about? Sam Howell. If the Washington Commanders go and they draft Drake May, or they go up and they trade for Caleb Williams, or they get Jaden Daniels, it's no reason for them to keep Sam Howell. Sam Howell's a young quarterback. This was his second season in the NFL. He has an ugly stat line. I understand that, but we're going to dig into it. 21 passing touchdowns to 21 interceptions. For one, you do not have to trade any high picks. You can get him for a 5th to 6th round pick. I really do believe that. Sam Howell had a lot of good moments this season. He played behind the worst offensive line in the NFL and with one of the worst offensive play calls in the NFL as well, in Eric Bieniemy. He did not have any pass protection up front. He was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He was the most pressured quarterback in the NFL. He was the most hit quarterback in the NFL. In one season, he's passed for more passing touchdowns than Kenny Pickett has in his first 2 seasons. Granted, Kenny Pickett got to sit down a couple of games for his rookie season behind Mr. Trubisky. And then this season, he wasn't able to finish out the season dealing with ankle injury. But you look at the volume, Sam Howell's going to throw more touchdowns than Kenny Pickett right now. He has a bigger arm, and he has that mobility that Mike Tomlin's asking for. And I'm not saying that he's going to come in and just transform this team. He has a freakish arm. You put him into a situation with a solid run game, with Najee Harris, with Jalen Warren, behind a solid offensive line, with those weapons that can separate, he can be in a very good situation. Do not look at this guy's base numbers and say he's trash. We don't want him here with the Steelers. Don't do that, because you look at the Washington Commanders. If you do not pay attention to those games, 46% of the plays were in shotgun. behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. The wide receivers were bottom of the league in terms of separation. You look at the Steelers wide receivers. George Pickens can separate. You have Pat Firemute. He can separate at the tight end spot. Deontay Johnson can separate, and you do a lot of quick screen action as well with Jaylen Warren to take some of the pressure off of Sam Howell, and he has that mobility to go out there and run for some touchdowns as well. You put him in this situation, he could be a star quarterback with the Steelers. I would actually love this move from just a bias standpoint. I think that you put him to a brand new change of scenery. He could come in and he could push Kenny Pickett out the way, and he could be the starting quarterback just based off his physical traits alone. He has that freakish arm power. We can go back to what he did against the Philadelphia Eagles, to where it was one of his best games in his career. He had 4 passing touchdowns to 1 interception. That was on October 29th. One of the touchdowns, he was running opposite hash, throws it right across his body, straight into the arms of Terry McLaurin. We can also go to another game as well when he went against the Atlanta Falcons, which was a top passing defense this season. 151 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. One of the touchdowns was just beautiful in that game. He can be a solid young quarterback with this team. He is entering year number 3, and he could be very good competition with Kenny Pickett in training camp, and he could be a valuable starter with this team as well, if you just put him into the right situation. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but gunslingers like this, if you put him into the right situation, you could be getting an all-world quarterback. That's all that I'm saying. The number 3 option on this list would be Kirk Cousins. And I would not like to see this move happen. I don't think that this move will happen. Kirk Cousins is not a bad quarterback, but I think that he has done a lot of good things for the Minnesota Vikings and with just Minnesota in general. A lot of good charity work. He has children. He has his wife there. He has a home there. It's going to be hard to pry him away from the Minnesota Vikings. It is possible, but the Steelers, from a contract standpoint, this is going to be tough because of the cap space. Patrick Peterson is making a lot of money. You can go out there and you can turn that into a signing bonus to help out the cap. But what are you going to do with contracts like TJ Watt, with Mika Fitzpatrick, Cameron Hayward? You're paying a lot of guys. You're also paying Deontay Johnson as well. And you can go out there, you try to configure the cap and try to figure things out. It's going to be hard to go out there and get a guy like Kirk Cousins, who is getting older, and he's coming off a torn Achilles as well. 18 passing touchdowns to just 5 interceptions in 8 games this season. He was on pace to be an MVP candidate before he tore that Achilles. He looked very good. I do think with the Steelers, he can be a very good quarterback, and they can be a playoff caliber team with Kirk Cousins. They're a playoff caliber team with Mason Rudolph coming in for a couple games. So imagine what Kirk Cousins be able to do. Just from a contract standpoint, it would be hard with this team. But if he is going to go out there and only just make possibly $100 million in just 2 years, that won't be too tough on the Steelers, but that will hurt them in the short term. And he's not a long-term option for this team. Kirk Cousins would be a good fit, just the financials don't add up. But Kirk Cousins, the last couple of years, has been one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL, and he can blow away Kenny Pickett in training camp. You don't bring this guy in to be competition for Kenny Pickett. You bring in Kirk Cousins, he's your starting quarterback no matter what. And then Kenny Pickett is your second string. And then you go off the technicality, Mason Rudolph won't be here anymore. So basically, you'll have Kirk Cousins as your number 1 option. You'll see what he can do, and then you just throw Kenny Pickett to the wayside. Hopefully, he can develop, but at that point, you're not worried about that. You're worried about making that playoff push right now with this veteran quarterback. I think it will be a nice fit. It's just the money that bothers me a lot, and the age and the injury with Kirk Cousins as well. The second option, Justin Fields. 13 games this season, 16 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 657 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. This is the biggest one that the mainstream media is talking about, how great of a fit that he would be with this team. But how many rushing quarterbacks have we seen with Mike Tomlin before? We saw Mike Vick a couple of years ago. He had the game against the San Diego Chargers at the time when Big Ben was out. You had the Le'Veon Bell situation, Antonio Brown. Those guys look very good. But Justin Fields is not the prototypical quarterback that Mike Tomlin is looking for. Mike Tomlin does want a quarterback that has mobility, but Justin Fields is a guy, he's going to take off, he's going to run the football. Can he develop to the next level as a passer with this team? He's been in the league for a couple years now with the Chicago Bears behind a terrible offensive line. Just last season, he was tied with being the most sacked quarterback in the NFL with Russell Wilson. So the offensive line is not up to standard, and the offensive play calling was horrible as well. He fits what Arthur Smith would want in a quarterback in terms of standing tall, being a bigger quarterback. He could throw the ball deep down the field. Once again, we're getting into territory here to where these guys are going to blow Kenny Pickett out the water. Kenny Pickett will not be able to compete with these guys, with guys like Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields, because they are better quarterbacks than him. The only thing that bothers me with Justin Fields, you have to exercise the fifth-year option very soon. Then you may have to pay him if he is a great quarterback, but you don't worry about that right now. I do think that they could be a playoff caliber team with Kirk Cousins or even Justin Fields. It gives Justin Fields a brand new change of scenery with the running backs as the Steelers have in Najee Harris and with Jaylen Warren. That read option would be insane. That RPO would be insane as well, because you can do a fake handoff to a guy like Najee Harris. You have George Pickens going deep down the field with a rocket arm of a guy like Justin Fields. He's going to utilize him in the best way. You have Pat Freiermuth as well. We've seen Cole Kmet have a lot of good years and a lot of good games underneath this belt with Justin Fields. So imagine what Pat Freiermuth can do with Justin Fields. This is a guy that will use the tight end as a safety blanket, and he can also use other pieces as well on this team with guys like Deontay Johnson in terms of those intermediate routes. So putting Justin Fields or Arthur Smith behind this offensive line, it will push the Steelers to the next level. They already give the Baltimore Ravens a lot of problems, and this is a team that game plans very well for Lamar Jackson. So they will go out there, they'll compete with them on the next level with this type of quarterback play. The same with the Cincinnati Bengals and with the Cleveland Browns as well, with that defense playing up the standard. So going out there and getting guys like Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields will put them to the next level. The only thing with those two options, like I mentioned before with Kirk Cousins, is the money standpoint. The thing with Justin Fields is how much draft capital are you willing to give up? Reports are saying that the Chicago Bears are looking for a second-round pick plus more. Do you want to give that up for a guy like Justin Fields? And if he turns out not to be the guy with this team, you're going to be in a horrible situation, because neither is Kenny Pickett and neither is Justin Fields, but we will see. And the number one option, and it seems like this is the most likely one, Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson would be a cheap option with this team. If he is cut by the Denver Broncos, it seems like he will be cut by the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson can come in and automatically push Kenny Pickett to the next level, or he'll just take the job away from him. I think that he could come in right now. He could take the job away from him. 26 passing touchdowns to 8 interceptions this season. I do get what happened in 2022. He had 16 passing touchdowns with 11 interceptions, but you heard the stat line that I just said with Justin Fields. He played behind one of the worst offensive lines, was tied with being the most sacked quarterback at that time with Justin Fields. You put Russell Wilson with this team and you make him that elite game manager, similar to how he was with the Seattle Seahawks early on. Behind this defense, the Steelers can be in a very good situation, especially with the pieces that they have with that offense. Arthur Smith is known to coach up guys like this. And I do think with Arthur Smith just being more focused on the offensive side, not being truly the head coach, they can be in a better situation. He's going to be a better play caller than Matt Canada. And I get a guy like Russell Wilson, who has been to 2 Super Bowls, won one in his career. He knows what it takes to win. The one thing that will piss you off of Russell Wilson, you'll have some wide open guys at the line of scrimmage. He's going to hold on to the football. He's going to turn around. He's going to try to make the big play that will get him into some trouble. And that's why him and Sean Payton were basically butting heads this season. He's not that prototypical quarterback that's going to stand in the pocket for 2 to 3 seconds. He's going to move around. He's going to create his own play. He's going to point guys out, and he's going to get these guys to the next level. He may not be the same Russell Wilson that he was in 2015 to 2016, that MVP candidate type of quarterback when he was playing with guys like Marshawn Lynch and Doug Baldwin, and on the back end of his career with the Seattle Seahawks when he's playing with guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. But he's a better option right now than Kenny Pickett, in my opinion. The worst case scenario for the Steelers, they running back with Mason Rudolph and they running back with Kenny Pickett. And another thing as well, a lot of people do want to see Kenny Pickett go out there and get a full year starting with Arthur Smith. I'm a big Kenny Pickett supporter. I'm going to hang on to that as long as I can. But even I can see this in 25 games, 13 passing touchdowns and 13 interceptions. Just not good enough, man. So they need to go out there and get that competition. I would love to see any one of these candidates come in with the Steelers, but I think the most valuable option and the most realistic option would be Russell Wilson signing with this team. And if he signs elsewhere, you have to go with a guy like Justin Fields, give him that trade capital, give him that draft capital if you can. If they don't go that way, I don't know what the Steelers are going to do, because it seems like Mason Rudolph does want a fresh start. That was something that was published in Sports Illustrated and in the Pittsburgh Tribune as well. And I don't blame Mason Rudolph. He was done dirty by Coach Tomlin, but he could also stay with this team as well. I don't think that Mason Rudolph can come in for a full season and give the Steelers what they're looking for at the quarterback spot. I think that he can come in for a couple games like how he did this season. He could play very well. But in terms of just playing very good throughout the entire season, we will see. But right now, I think all of these guys can either push Kenny Pickett out that starting spot, or they can be that competition that they're looking for in training camp. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about the list, and what other quarterbacks do you want to see this team go after in free agency or in the NFL draft? I will speak of some draft names as well before I let you guys go. Look out for some guys like Bo Nix, Michael Penix Jr. to possibly be guys that they draft and try to put into the room with a guy like a Kenny Pickett and see if they can push him as well. That's also a thing that the mainstream media is not talking about as well. The Steelers can go out there in the middle of the draft. They can get a guy like a Bo Nix from Oregon and see if he's the right guy. I would not love that move because I believe that he's more of a system quarterback with Oregon. But getting a guy like Michael Penix Jr. could be a very good move with this team. But just let me know in the comment section below how do you guys feel about the video and how you guys feel about the quarterback options. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless.